Earring hoops with seed bead dangles offer endless possibilities for arrangements of patterns and colors to get just the kind of look you want. Hi there, Sandy here. I hope you enjoy the video. If you have been watching me at all for a while, you know I love earrings that are dangly. And I love things that have a lot of movement, and I especially love designs and ideas with lots of possibilities. And this design just opens up the doors for you and is a blank slate for your creativity. One thing I thought I would do today that's a little bit different is use materials that you can find at Walmart. I found just about every single thing here, or could have found them at Walmart. And this is great if there's somebody that you're trying to teach to make jewelry and maybe they don't want to do really expensive things. They don't have to be expensive to be pretty and fun and absolutely wearable. So let me set these aside for a minute and show you what I got. The first thing I got at Walmart was this package of earring hoops, and it comes with these 3 sizes, these small round ones, larger round ones, and even some teardrop shapes, which are fun. The other main things you'll need are head pins. This was a package of eye pins and head pins, and just about all of these at Walmart are somewhere in the vicinity of $3 or $4 each. Some are $2, so average of about $3 a package. So for a few dollars, you could make yourself a lot of earrings as gifts, as something to sell at a craft fair. You'll need crimp beads or crimp tubes, and I'll show you how both look in this project. And you'll need some seed beads. These are 11O seed beads. These seed beads, you see the M on there, that's from Memory Makers. That's what I used to make this set. And these I actually had in my scrapbooking supplies. They were for making like shaker cards and different things that you would use in scrapbook pages that you would use seed beads for. So I had these long before I ever started beading. Just a few basic things that you can find very inexpensively, but if you wanted to upgrade, you could make your own wire frames out of sterling silver wire, or even just silver-filled wire. You could buy silver-plated head pins, different beads. So this is the earring I'm going to show you how to make, and isn't it fun and oh so dangly? And like I said, so many possibilities for just changing things up. Oh yes, ear wires. Now let me show you a couple things about these hoops that come out of the package. You may notice that one's looking a little sad and wonky. The way these work is if you flip it over on the back, you'll see that there's 2 little channels. This wire, you can see, is bent up from the circle, and it slips into these channels. And if you're very careful, just grasp it with chain nose or flat nose pliers and wiggle gently and slowly. What you don't want is to pull hard. That is what happened here. I pulled hard, that pushed down. Oh no! Am I ever going to get that back into shape? Probably not. So just grasp it. It will come out. Just kind of gently wiggle and it'll work out, and it won't do that sudden spring. Another thing you can use, and actually it's what I was looking for when I went to pick up these supplies, are wine glass charms. You can buy them. They're already in circles. There it goes. Because I did it gently, my circle is not distorted too much. They're hardened too, so you're not going to be able to distort them. So you'll do that to open that out. Now if you find some that are soldered closed, you could add the dangles, but you wouldn't be able to add the spacers, so you really do want some, and I think they make a huge difference. I'll show you more on that in a minute. Now this is the pattern that I came up with. What I used here are just some crimp tubes as silver spacers. I don't know if you've ever thought of using crimp tubes as spacers, but they look really nice. So these are used on the head pins as well as between them on the hoop. Now sometimes these inexpensive head pins will be a little rough on the end. You can feel it like this, and it'll just feel rough, and sometimes it'll make it difficult to get the seed beads onto them. And you can just take your wire cutters and nip off a little tiny bit of that rough end, and then usually you'll have no problems. So for these earrings, I am using 11 dangles per earring. The outside ones just consist of a single crimp tube and a single seed bead. Every so often, especially if you buy inexpensive seed beads like you get at Walmart, you'll find wonky ones that the holes will be too small. Just set them aside so you don't keep trying the same ones over and over again. So these are outer ones. Now for all of the rest, the pattern begins with a tube, a bead, and a tube. You can see that's repeated down through all of them except that very outer one. So crimp, seed bead, crimp. This just gives a really nice effect along the bottom where they're all the same. It just looks good that way. Then for this next one, it's going to have our pattern, crimp, bead, crimp, and then 2 beads. So you'll make 2 just like this one. Okay, there's that one, and notice I'm setting these aside so that they don't get mixed up, just makes it easier. I have one really long, like 2-inch plus head pin set aside. That's for the middle one. These other ones I think are about 1.5 inches long. So you'll just need one longer one for the middle one, but the rest can be not quite so long. Now that one's bent, so I'm going to just put that aside. Sometimes life is just too short to mess with these. Just find another one. Because it does kind of matter. These dangles look nicer if the head pins are straight. I only need one. Okay. So now this one gets 4 seed beads above our bottom pattern. And you'll make 2 of those. And notice that if you pet your pile of beads, many of them, most of them, turn whole side up. So that's kind of a handy little trick. This next one has 6 seed beads above the pattern and then ends with a single crimp tube. Alright, this 5th one, or the one right next to the middle, is almost the same. It's our pattern at the bottom, 6 seed beads, and then 3 crimp tubes. And there, just like that, you should have 10 head pins ready to go. And now we'll switch to our longer one and make our center dangle. And let me just double check. I think this has 11. 3, 6, 9... Oh, 13, excuse me. Now, it may seem a lot longer than the others, but having that center dangle that long is what really gives you that shape. You could certainly shorten it if you want, but it just gives you that really nice pointed look, and I love that. So we'll do it the same way. And hopefully as you're putting beads on your head pins, your mind is going to all the possibilities, all the different beads you could use, all the different color combinations, all the different patterns you could put at the bottom. There are just so many possibilities for this kind of a pattern. It's the sort of thing I like. It's deceptively simple. You look at it at first and you say, well, that's easy, and it is. But then when you start making riffs on it and variations, so we got 2, 4, 6, so 7 more. For example, have you thought about using some heavy gauge wire, like maybe 14 gauge wire? Make your own loop for a pendant and add bigger beads and do the same kind of a thing. Instead of crimp tubes as spacers, perhaps you could use coils of wire as spacers. So many ideas and possibilities. 9, 12, okay, one more. And then 4 crimp tubes. And again, sometimes these less expensive ones will have kind of funny little things hanging off them, and just toss those. It's just, it's part of, you know, the get what you pay for thing. When you buy the inexpensive things, that's kind of what happens. Now, if you're making these for production, I strongly recommend the one-step looper. I love this tool. Just keep in mind that these are glass beads. So push the bead right up to that jaw, but then keep in mind it's glass, and you want to be careful of it. You can crack it. I've done it before. And just let your tool do the work. Just don't press it up so tight against that glass bead on the end. This especially happens if you have a shaped bead like a Swarovski bicone. It's very easy for these jaws to press between that angled top. But I've had it happen with these beads that it'll crush the glass. It is glass, it can shatter, and it will. So, but this tool just makes things go so much more quickly. So make all of those head pins into dangles by adding a loop at the top. If you don't have this tool, I'll show you how to do it. It's not hard. It just takes a little bit more time. What you want to do is take your wire cutters and trim that wire that's after the last bead, so make sure you shake them all down. Trim that to about 3/8 of an inch. Grasp that wire with round nose pliers, and that wire should be not able to be felt. If you press it here, it should be just below the round bit. And then take your wrist, which is facing palm up right now, and twist it towards yourself. Let go of the jaws. Go back to palm facing up and twist some more until that wire touches itself. And if you made the loop a little big, which I was a little far up on my jaws there, it's okay. You can just choke it down a little. Now we have a P-shaped loop. And what we want to do is give it a little neck. So you just grasp that and bend that, which you kind of might have seen me doing in the tool too. The looper doesn't quite do that. So while you're holding it in the tool, you can kind of bend it back. Although that is a good point at which to break your beads, so be careful. So we'll just get that loop. So it's centered like a lollipop, basically. So you can do it either way. You don't have to have the looper, but you can see how much faster it is to do it with the looper. So make all of your head pins into dangles, making sure, whichever method you do, that you shake the beads down and then make the loop right at the top of the last bead. See, yeah, there's that little bend. I do it without even thinking about it these days. Oh, now watch out for beads that might have leaped off. No, that one's okay. Sometimes they'll do that if they get bumped on the tray. A bead will leap off, and then you'll make your eye pin, your loop, and realize it's not there, which is very annoying because you got to take it all apart and start over again. Don't use head pins that are too fine of gauge, otherwise they just get bent too easily. And where these are dangling freely, they really look best if they are straight. Now you might notice as you're doing this that the loops aren't perfect. And they often won't be 100% perfect coming out of this tool. But I still believe it's faster to use the tool. And then I just go back with my round nose pliers. And first I grab the loop and make sure it's closed. And then I have a little, these are like 4-in-1, they've got a little flat spot there, which I love to use, and kind of, if it needs to be straightened out, straighten it out. And sometimes, so this one came out good. Just want to close that a little bit more. Sometimes it'll be so open the beads will have climbed up into that loop, like right here. So you just have to kind of shake that down, grab that loop, and just make sure it's closed. I still think even with doing this step, it's faster to use the one-step looper. Now that one I made a little far from the beads, so what I can do is choke up and make my loop a little bigger. There. Notice when you kink it back a little bit to make the neck, make it centered, sometimes it opens up. It usually will open up a little, so it's kind of a back and forth thing. You kink it back and then you close it and then you kink it back some more. There, so all of my loops are in good shape now, and now it's time to string these onto, the nicer one. The one that's still kind of round, please. And what I'm going to do is use crimp tubes as spacers. They really give it just a nice look. They add some sparkle here, and they keep the design spread out. I'll show you what happens if you don't add the spacers. Here's this design that I made, and I'll talk more about this in a minute. But see how they're all just kind of crunched on top of each other, and it's just kind of uneven. Well, now that I'm laying it down, it doesn't look bad. But when they're dangling, well, I don't know if you can see from the top down, they're just kind of all overlapping, and they don't look quite right. Now, if you weren't making a pattern, or if you did a whole bunch of beads, this might be fine. But where these are front facing, we really want to see the pattern. So the spacer beads, or crimp tubes, do that job for us. So all you need to do is string these on. So I begin and end with a crimp tube. And just work your way down from the smallest to the longest and back out again. And then you can use your tool to push this back into place when you're done. And you may need to use your flat nose pliers, and you might have to reshape it just a little. Add an ear wire. If you want, these particular ones come with the spot to add another dangle in the middle. I didn't, because I kind of wanted the focus to be on this pattern down here, but you could. And there you have it, a really cool pair of earrings with so many design possibilities. So let's take a look at these again. So you can see this one without any spacers, and then this one, and instead of using crimp tubes, I used crimp beads, which really looks sweet because these are the rounded crimp beads. So you see just a really nice pattern of the round beads in there, and like I said, it keeps them all even. When you're wearing them, it just looks better. So for this one, I did a slightly different pattern. I did a pattern on the bottom of each, except for the very end ones, again, of a red seed bead and then a 3mm check fire polish bead. So that's another possibility. And then instead of the silver triangle that I have in here with the crimp tubes, I added yellow beads. And the sharp-eyed amongst you may have noticed that these two are actually just a little bit different, because I did this one first and I decided to make some adjustments. I decided, first of all, this was a little long, so I wanted to make it one bead shorter. And I also added another yellow one because I thought the yellow triangle wasn't quite obvious enough right here. So here I have 4 yellow beads. Here I have 5 yellow beads and actually 2 less blue beads, so that this comes down to I just thought it was a nicer shape. So you can see the difference in using the crimp beads versus the crimp tubes over here. It's just a little bit different look as opposed to using none, which I really don't recommend. So think about all the possibilities. Like I said, you could make these into pendants, something like this. You could have a dangle coming down in the middle, even just like another one of these. I don't know. I don't care for that, actually. But so I'm sure you could find something that would look good and would suit your style, and you can just take this design and make lots and lots of them. And I would love to see any variations that you come up with. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful. And if you make any designs like this, inspired by this video, I hope that you will share what you've done, because we all love to see all the different ideas that everybody comes up with. So happy creating. Bye-bye.